So.
Okay, she wrote it all down. She took it. All right, let's go.
And, you know.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, October 10th, 2024 Boone County Committee of the Whole Meeting Finance. I will call the roll. Rodney Riley is here. Ryan Curry. Here. Ryan Schneider.
Here.
Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Brent Mueller.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg. Here. Elisa Patterson.
Here.
Dana Logston.
Here.
Jerry Branson.
Here.
Carl Johnson. He's not here at this time. Marion Thornberry.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. We have no minutes this evening. On to the agenda. 4.1, can I entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please? Motion by Mr. Schneider, second by Mr. Thornberry. Any discussion on the agenda for this evening? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. I have no slips for public comment. We don't have any public comment tonight? Okay. Talk about that then. We'll move along. 6.1. Tonight I've invited Ms. Gina Delrose meeting tonight. I'm going to recommend an appointment for her to the QCREDA Board, which stands for the Quad Cities Regional Economic Development Authority Board. That position's been open for some time now. Gina has gladly accepted to be appointed. It's approved by the board, so I just bring her forward tonight. If anybody has any questions for her, Gina, if you just stand up, please, and step up to the microphone if anybody has any questions for Gina.
I think most people know who I am, so I won't bore you with the details, but yeah, I'm here to answer any questions.
Anyone at all? All right, you got lucky. We will move this on to the full board meeting next Thursday for, oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss somebody?
I was just going to thank her for
Sorry.
being willing to serve. She does a phenomenal job on everything she does, and we're glad to have you. Yeah.
Carrie?
All right.
She also worked for us when we had the county city committee.
Okay. All right, I'm going to look one more time. Anybody else? All right, we'll move this along to full board next week. Gina, thanks for coming tonight.
I guess I'm.
All right, we'll move along to treasurer's monthly report. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, Mr.
You're doing very good.
Oh, you go right ahead, sir, please.
All right, moving on to 6.2, Mr. Newport.
Well, good evening, everyone, and I want to introduce somebody to you. Javon, come on up here. So we are in the presence of an honest to God rock star here, ladies and gentlemen.
As soon as we find out who he is, if he does, we'll be in great shape.
This is
Questions later.
John Swanigan. He is an implementation specialist with Tyler Technologies. So, you know, he took, think about the complexity of what we got here. We've got several dozen different funds. We've got grants. We've got, you know, all these departments. And he took all of the complexity of our general ledger and our payroll and put it together for us. And we've been running it now for a few months and still had some issues that we didn't know how to fix. And because, you know, even if you're good, you don't always get it right the first time. So Javon's been with us here for the past week, working with various departments, spending some time with me and several others to get some issues squared away that have been bugging us and causing us issues. So I just wanted to introduce him to the board. And do you have anything you want to say, Javon?
Yeah, I've actually enjoyed my time here, and I told Kurt and a few others that this is one of the towns I feel like a lot of people work together. It's surprising that's not too common that you see within entities. And I've just been having fun here. Everyone's been great. We've been making progress throughout the week, so I'm enjoying my stay. I made a joke with Kurt of I donated back to the city by going to Hard Rock, so I think I gave back and everything like that. But I definitely look forward to coming back and just visiting here. I've been having a great time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Staff is happy.
So I'll explain to Javon later about the fact that Boone County doesn't directly benefit from the sales tax revenue
Yeah.
or the gambling revenue from the Hard Rock Casino, but I appreciate the effort just the same. So, so you've got something in front of you that I am going to call a treasurer's report, and so that is the printed title. And it lists the cash balances of all of our funds. So in that sense, it replaces what I used to call the cash and investments report. This is the sort of the beginning of my treasurer's report. It also lists last month's balance in revenues, expenses through the past month. And so it also replaces that cash flow report that was the tail end of my treasurer's report before. So you got two reports in one here. Now, we do need to tweak something because the way this program works, the pooled cash accounts that we have and the investment pool are set up as funds within themselves. And so all the cash is kind of double because it's showing the balances in those pooled cash funds. So when you look at that total on page 3 of $91 million, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Okay. It's actually half that because the numbers are in there duplicated. And Javon and I, we got that. We're going to fix that. So we don't report on the pooled cash funds in this report. But if you, now the next page, the one called cash in bank. That is going to be similar to the report that I used to page in my creditors report that used to say something like cash balances, all funds by account or something like that. So this is showing you the various bank accounts where the money is. So when we get this tweaked, it'll balance back to the first report with the same total. So the first report will tell you what funds the money belongs to, and the second report will show you where the money is in terms of the bank accounts. And then you see down there about 3 lines from the bottom, the investment pool with a balance of $41,979,309.65. That matches to the penny the liabilities of the investment pool balance sheet, which is so we've come that far. We've come a long way, and we've got reports that actually reconcile with each other and reconcile with the investment pool, and that makes me very happy. So like I say, we've still got a few bugs to work out. We've still got some entries in our payroll bank account that have been duplicated, and because there were expenses that we posted twice, it's showing a balance that's lower than it really is. And so we're going to fix that, and I'm fairly confident that by next month we'll have some really solid reports that we can count on, and Becky can count on them for budgeting, and we'll drive on from there. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Thornberry.
You probably explained this to us before, but could you tell me why the VAC isn't shown on here?
So
Veterans.
Right. So we don't have a VAC fund. We don't hold on to their money. We have a tax levy for them, and whenever I do a distribution, the VAC gets a distribution just like the county gets a distribution and all the other taxing districts. So in terms of the property tax distributions, they're set up kind of like their own taxing district. We also have budgeted amounts that we give to the VAC, but that's, we're not holding on to any of their money.
Any other questions from Mr. Report? Thank you, Kurt.
Okay.
Moving on to 6.3, Ms. Tobin.
We will start with revenues. They're trending 6% over revenues at this time last year. So, I'm really happy with how I think we're going to end up this year. You'll notice through September, our revenues per general fund are already at $20,625,000 compared to budget, which is just under 21 million. So we're in good shape. As far as expenses go, our expenses, we're about 21% under budget with only 2 months left to go. So looking at these numbers and trending out the way I do, we will end the year under budget as well. So I'm pretty happy about how things are going this year. Last sheet is ARPA. As of the end of September, we've spent $3,548,283 with a balance of $6,852,011. So come to entertain any questions. There'll be plenty of budget discussion later, so I didn't want to bore you right now.
Any questions from Ms. Tobin? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to 6.4, Boone County Highway Engineer, Mr. Crone.
I've got a written report there. I don't have anything else to add outside of that. If there's any questions, I can answer those.
Any questions for Mr. Crone? How long is Garden Prairie Road gonna take?
It should be less than a week. We're going to start Monday morning at 7 and hope to be done by noon Friday.
Okay.
If things go well.
Make sure they go well.
It's
a lifeline.
it's a lifeline. It's a big project. But yeah, it's needed. So.
Yep. No, I noticed it today driving. There's a little dip there. So I'm like, oh, good thing he's doing it. So thank you.
Thanks,
It looks very nice. I mean, with all the cutting the ditch out there.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of big improvements. It'll be finished next week or next year for paving. So we're just doing our prep work. We do that before the off cycle.
Yep. So, all right. Franson.
Oh, sorry.
Just a quick question, a month or so ago, we had some neighbors that came in that were very concerned about one of the intersections and the noise from putting in rundle strips. Not rundle strips. Rumble. And so anyway, we were making some changes and I'm just wondering if you can give us an update on that. How's that going?
Going well.
Good.
It's going, everything seems to be going well. So.
And we haven't had any more accidents or anything there?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we're having accidents, there hasn't been an uptick as far as I know. It's pretty short duration.
Sure. I know it's a short window. I just wondering how things were progressing.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Curry.
Yeah, no, I just thank you. Stop signs that you guys stenciled onto the intersections in Spring Creek and Olson or Shaw Road. I've noticed them throughout the county. I believe even on the curve from Riverside and it winds over to Beaver Valley. The people that had been kind of reporting to me a lot about the issues of the accidents have seemed to be quieter. I also explained we do have that grant with the speed limit signs. It shows the radar of what they're going, and those signs, are we putting those up pretty soon as well when they get them?
That grant was awarded last year and we still don't have a grant agreement with the Fed. So it's just, that one's taking unusually long, but it's out of our court. It's been out of our court for 6 months. I've asked about it on an almost monthly basis. So we'll get those up as soon as we can. We do plan on doing, in addition to those stencils that you mentioned, we plan on doing stop bars as well. So that's the 24-inch white line by the, sometimes that helps as well. So we're going to be doing those with the next 2 weeks.
That's great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll try anything.
Thanks, Justin. Moving on to 7.1, I need a motion to approve the 2025 holiday schedule.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Schneider. Discussion, Mr. Wiltsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had originally opposed this last year, but I've done a lot of research and come to understand the significance of Juneteenth. And I know it's the 19th, but often on these holidays, unless this is mandated by the federal government, we do it on a Monday or a Friday, so it's a 3-day weekend. The unfortunate reality of June 13th, if you don't know about it, is that after the Civil War, the state of Texas kept the emancipation of slaves quiet so that the slaves didn't know that they were free. What a shame that is. But anyway, you look at most of our holidays and, even Memorial Day, which used to be May 28th, is a Monday, with the exception of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Veterans Day, which was the armistice was signed in World War I on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. So I understand why they still stay with 11th, but I was just wondering if that's Juneteenth is a mandated day for that day, or whether it could be a Monday or Friday.
I guess we would have to look into that. The research I did, it was the 19th.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the day that most people are, respect the holiday. I guess we'd have to look at that further.
Maybe if you just could make a comment before next meeting.
Sure.
Even to me privately, if it's required, it's required. If it's not, A lot of these things have turned into 3-day weekends.
Mr. Riley.
I gotta be honest with you, I don't know how it works where I'm at, but if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, if it's locked to the 19th, then there wouldn't be an extra day that particular year. So there's just something else to check on, just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Wiltie, do we need a voice vote on that?
Yeah, just voice votes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. 7.2, motion to approve the purchase of 40 Motorola N70 radios for the Sheriff's Department. Motorola at the cost of $56,409.79 per year for 7 years. Motion by Mr. Larson, second by Mr. Riley. Discussion. Tobin.
So you have a memo in your packet from Lieutenant Smythe. He's also here to explain it as well. This is a budgeted expense. I believe we're still working on grants though, to help pay for this, hopefully. So we're not paying for this ourselves, over the next 7 years.
Evening, members of the board. First of all, I apologize for stepping in a little bit late, but I'm happy to report the reason for that. Since you guys have so graciously funded the McKinley Fitness Center, the Sheriff's Department has now been able to do our own testing as opposed to paying an outside agency over $5,000 every time we want to have applicants come in and test for us and hopefully fill the positions that I know you guys are probably tired of the sheriff coming in and talking about the different vacancies or the amount of vacancies that we have. So that is already being put to good use by the Sheriff's Department and hopefully saving the Sheriff's Department's money, which is not necessarily the true intention of it, but it's an asset to the department. So thank you very much for providing funding for that. I do appreciate that. The memo that you had before you guys, this was a project that we started. It's been well over a year ago, and we did present at last year's budget, just because we had already been doing research, the capital request for that at that time to get that approved. Since that had been approved, we have been testing, demoing the different radios, and just doing research on the ones that we wanted to purchase, along with the Belvedere Police Department, because we're a lot of things that we do, especially something like this where technology, everybody is using the same thing. We do like to make a decision kind of lockstep. The memo does explain the project, the need, especially why we need to purchase these radios now sooner rather than later, why we want to purchase the particular radios that we are purchasing. The radios that we have currently are over 17 years old. I want to say I was on the department a short time when I got my radio issued to me when we went over to the Starcom is when we purchased these. They were purchased as used radios and they still lasted us 17 years. So those were Motorola radios that can kind of speak a little bit to the quality of the Motorola themselves. When you get a radio, especially these days, when you purchase something, any kind of technology and it's still working 17 years later, that speaks for the quality. So that Motorola was definitely going to be one of the vendors that we looked into when we went to make this purchase, knowing that they're not always the cheapest. We did, with the need, they are still functioning. However, they are no longer serviced or supported by the manufacturer. If something's happened with those radios now, if we can't fix them ourselves by buying spare parts, old parts, or taking a part from a already broken radio, then it just becomes a heavy paperweight. There's not much we can do with that radio anymore. Unfortunately, every piece of electronic does meet that end of life point, and that's really where we're at with the current radios that we have now. Again, Belvedere Police Department is in the same predicament. They're moving at the same time we are. They've actually already purchased their radios. Knowing the quality of these Motorola radios, knowing the cost of what they were going to be, one big consideration I did have was the future. Especially when you're making a purchase in technology, you don't want to purchase something and then 5 years later it becomes obsolete, like we all kind of have to deal with right now with our cell phones and computers. When you're making this purchase, you want to make sure this is going to be something that you can have for a little bit. One of the trends with radios right now is a smart radio, where I explained it in the memo, but the best I can explain it is it's a radio that you can still do all of the same communications with, talk on the Starcom network, which is the digital platform that we use. but it also has different smart applications built into it. So it does act almost like a cell phone in that you can text message on it, send images to other people out in the field, or dispatch can send images out to the field. Applications that will allow us to save money when we go to program these radios. There's a command central where the manufacturer or us, I'm sorry, not the manufacturer, but the people who service these radios or us can send out different programming to these radios, as opposed to taking them in and getting charged a fee every time we need to get these reprogrammed to go out into the field. So that was one of the reasons that we really do want to purchase these smart radios. We're not going to be using all of those features at this time. But in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't know what other technology is going to be out there. But it'd be for these smart radios. The one reason that we do want to purchase these radios now is they do have Wi-Fi and LTE technology. When I talk about that cell phone, that's what your cell phone is using. If you're outside, you're using that LTE. If you're in a place with Wi-Fi, it'll connect with that Wi-Fi. So if the regular radio doesn't have the typical digital frequency or is getting blocked for some reason, like if you're in a steel building, if that building has Wi-Fi or it can connect to LTE, that radio will still connect. So that's one of the reasons that we're looking at purchasing these radios as opposed to just a replacement for what we've got right now, which we could do cheaper. But again, with the trending in technology, with these smart radios really, hitting the market and everybody starting to trend towards these, I don't want to purchase $150,000 or make $150,000 purchase and then us being in the same situation we are right now. Just like a lot of the fire departments are, they purchase these smart radios because 10, 15 years ago, when everyone was switching to Starcom as opposed to standard UHF or VHF, the fire departments did not do that. Everybody is using Starcom, which is the digital frequencies now, and the fire departments have been left behind. They no longer have communications with us if we're only using Starcom. So they actually, all of the local fire departments have just purchased actually more expensive versions of the radios that we're purchasing right here. But they made the same decision to go to Motorola. I did talk about why the Motorola N70s. First of all, these are expensive radios, but they are not the most expensive radio even that Motorola offers. This is the lowest price. I shouldn't say the lowest price point. It's one of the lowest price points in their smart radio line. So this is not the most expensive. The most expensive radio in that smart line does get into, it's probably even $3,000 to $4,000 more per radio. So it's significantly more expensive. Other manufacturers that I did look at as opposed to Motorola were the Harris and the Kenwood. I had the opportunity to demo these radios as well as actually use them out in the field. Over the last 6 months, I've been on multiple deployments, including the RNC and DNC. I was lucky to have these radios actually issued to me by the Milwaukee Police Department and Chicago Police Department. So they are quality radios, but they don't have that smart function. They do have the Wi-Fi and the LTE, but they're not offering anything with that smart function where in 5 years from now, when you may be downloading different applications to these radios, we're not going to be able to do that if we went with those. We may save $40,000 to $50,000 right now in that total purchase, but we may be looking at making another $150,000 to $200,000 purchase 5 to 10 years from now. I want this to be a legacy purchase, something that is going to last for another 17, 18 years, well beyond my career and hopefully the length of the careers of the people who are just starting out with us right now.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Larson.
Is this including any extra radios for backup in case a couple break or something, or?
So there will be a couple extra. Our plan currently right now is we've got probably 50 to 60 of our current are functioning right now. So if we need spare or backup radios in an emergency situation, we'd be able to use those. And also to the rest of our sheriff's patrol or anybody else that does use these radios is still going to be issued the same radios that we currently have. So we're not just going to turn these into $500 paperweights. We're actually still going to use the radios we currently have. But we do right now, we're just focused on all of our deputies, detectives, and command staff getting these radios.
So your current radios are compatible with the new radio?
Correct. Yes.
All right, Mr. Curry.
So a lot of the auxiliary teams, FEMA, or what's it, EMA, they're not getting these radios. It's just gonna be your deputies, but they'll still be able to communicate with you guys since.
Correct. Yes. We'll all still be on the Starcom network. They'll have our current radios. Actually, right now EMA does use a supply of.
They do?
Yes. And I don't know if EMA was included in the grant with the fire departments, if they're going to have some of those, but
Makes sense.
yeah, rest assured, they are now going to have, all of the fire departments are going to have communications on digital, and as well as one of the reasons that the radios that the fire departments purchased are more expensive than the ones that we're looking at, and what brings ours into a lower price point is ours are single band. They're strictly digital, where they don't have that old analog channel, the UHF and VHF that the fire departments still use.
Delete the old stuff.
What's that?
Simplify and delete the old stuff.
I wouldn't necessarily say simplify, but we're not going to pay for something that we don't use.
Also, is it harder is it encrypted now? Is that?
Yes.
I know that the public would also like to tap into scanners. A lot of.
Yes, no, these are fully encrypted and they have additional encryption keys.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Loxton.
Okay, a couple of things. The first one is, I noticed in the paperwork that it says that the services part, which is you're looking at like an extra $2,000 that covers the radios for the next 7 years under a full service warranty.
So when you see that $2,000, what Motorola actually does there is that is just the warranty. However, they're not going to charge us. They don't want to charge us interest on that warranty. So that's why it's separated from the equipment.
Right.
So all the interest that you're paying is that top line up there.
Right. That's good. So what happens after the 7 years? The radios are no longer a warranty? Or is there like an extended service contract?
Yeah. Anytime we're talking about warranties, companies, I mean, if there's extended warranties that you can purchase, yes. Yes, but we would be in the same situation we are currently right now.
Okay. Another question is, so with any complicated technology, there's upgrades, firmware updates, all this other stuff. Who's going to be in charge of that? Is that going to be Motorola, or is that going to be somebody on staff that knows what they're doing?
So not necessarily somebody on staff that's going to be pushing those, but we are going to be able to push them out. So they will come from Motorola, and we will be able to push those updates out over Wi-Fi and LTE without having to, like what we currently do now, bring them into, we use Rock River Service in Rockford,
Right.
and we actually get charged. We have to do that. So it'll be no different than you updating your iPhone or your smartphone. Anytime you get an update, you just hit update. We'll just be pushing them out from the command central as opposed to each individual radio downloading it itself.
Okay. So it's not like physical firmware update. We have to plug it into a computer or whatever.
Nope.
Okay.
It gets pushed out through that Wi-Fi and LTE.
Handy. That might be it for now.
All right, Ms. Branson.
I haven't seen anywhere in here where it tells us the average lifespan for these radios.
I'm sorry, I'm not, I don't have the greatest hearing. I only heard the last part about life expectancy.
Before we enter into a 7-year contract with this company, I'd like to know how long these radios are projected to last.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm looking at one of the main reasons I started with Motorola, and I've come back full circle to them. The quality that you're getting with Motorola is, I mean, you don't know anything about Motorola radios, but you've heard that name Motorola. The quality is second to none. There's no issue, or there's no debate with that in the industry. Anytime you hear about Motorola within the industry, the first thing is, yeah, those are pretty expensive. So I'm not worried about quality. And that's why I use our current radios as an example. Our current radios were Motorola radios, digital radios from when the market started moving from the analog to the digital. That's when we wanted to purchase these. Couldn't afford the Motorola radios at the time, but we did find probably about 50 to 60 that were used. So I don't know how old they were at the time, but they have lasted us for 17 years.
Oh, I have no doubt that you've done your homework.
Yeah.
And that you definitely need this. Just wondering, okay, we got 17 years out of the old ones. I have to wonder I
am hoping for another 15 to 20 years out of these radios. And again, that's part of the reason that I want to purchase these smart radios, even though I know we're not going to be using it to its full capability right now. There are several applications on it that we are going to be using in that first year. And that's why in that one chart where you see services, where he was referring to the $2,000, that first year, it's actually 23. That's where the sheriff's department is going to pay for 4 different applications that we want to use.
Sure.
There are more that we can get, but I don't want to be purchasing a radio that doesn't have the capabilities to keep up with the
I'm
technology.
not questioning that in the slightest. I just wondered how long the radios might last. That's all.
Yeah, I wish I could give you an answer. The best answer I can tell you is just like when you're going to purchase a car. If you had a Ford for 15 years, when you go to purchase that next Ford, your hope is this is going to last another 15 years.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm in full support of getting you what you need because I know.
Yeah, no, I wish I could give you a better answer. That's the best answer that I can give you is 100%. I want these radios to last another 15 years. And if they don't, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Loxton.
Okay, so assuming this goes into the budget and we approve it and all that, what's the purchase date? Like how soon will you have these?
Well, the purchase date is going to be, I can tell you, it'll be prior to November 30th. It's going to be in this budget year. As far as being in hand and up and running, I have not gotten an exact date from Motorola. What I do know is Belvedere Police Department ordered theirs approximately 8 weeks ago, and I think they got them in a couple of weeks ago. So they already have theirs in hand. The turnaround time is probably about 6 weeks.
Okay. So you want to have them before the election? Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Smith? I need a roll call vote for that.
Not till next month,
All right,
next week.
next week. All right. All in favor of the purchase of 40 Motorola N70 radios, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Moving on to 7.3, motion to.
Chairman, real quick, I just note for the record that Board Member Carl Johnson joined us at 6:21 PM. All right, go ahead.
Moving on to 7.3, motion to approve the selection of Ridgeland Johnson Construction as the contractor for the design build project at the McKinley Avenue property.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Larson, second by Mr. Schneider. Discussion, Ms. Tobin?
Sure. So as you all are well aware, this is our attempt at our very first design build. So it's been a process, but we think we're hopefully on the home front here. You'll see before you the recommendation from our owner's rep, Randy Darnell, who is also here tonight to answer any questions. We did the RFP. We had the responses. And Ringland was our lowest responsible bidder. Ringland is also here to answer any questions you may have as well. So the interesting thing about this process that with the state statute is the board is required to select her contractor, then we negotiate the cost if there's any changes to be made there. So that's the way the design build works. So tonight you would be tonight and next Thursday at the full county board, you would be approving to hire Ringland as the contractor for the project. Then we would go back to Ringland and negotiate how to bring that cost down. And then we would work out a contract and then bring the contract back to the board for approval. So that's how this process works. A little bit different than what we're used to.
Okay, Mr. Curry.
Since that negotiate the contract, what if we pick a contractor, negotiations go awry, we're not pleased, is there an exit clause to that contract so that we can work with a contractor that will grant what we want and for the prices that we get?
Or are we stuck?
Well, you have a contract, so you go back to negotiate. Just like any other RFP, the county has the right to refuse any and all bids.
Okay.
So you still have that out there if for some reason, we can't.
Oh, we're stuck with the contract. So if we vote on the contractor, like you said, right? So we vote on the contractor, this is what they're asking, and negotiate,
Right?
but we're tied to that contractor, so if negotiations don't go how we want or something does, we're still not stuck with that contract.
I mean, we could always rebid it. I don't know if Randy has any more insight to that. That would be my guess, is you reject everything and you would rebid the project.
Sorry for being.
That's okay. Good evening. I'm Randy Darnell with CCS. So all we're really doing at this point is issuing a letter of intent that will allow us to negotiate with Ringland Johnson under the terms of the statute. If those negotiations aren't fruitful, no contract will be issued.
The way it's.
But I believe the state's.
We choose it and then we negotiate.
Yes. And I believe the state's attorney reviewed that statute and our position on that.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
Yes, that's better.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Any other questions? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Excuse me. Moving on to 7.4, Public Safety Building Boiler Repair Replacement RFP. Motion or just discussion?
There's no motion.
No, we're just reviewing the proposal.
All right, go ahead, Becky.
This actually, the bid opening is not until tomorrow, so you won't see it to vote on until next Thursday. I just wanted you to be aware of it. Originally, it was supposed to be open last Friday and it didn't get published in time, so we had to push the dates out by a week. So I just wanted you to be aware of it and see the RFP and on your agenda for next Thursday.
Thank you, Becky. All right, moving on to 7.5, a motion to approve the proposal from MAC Relocations in the amount not to exceed $15,309.30 for moving items from the courthouse basement to the Midland States Bank.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Larson, a second by Mr. Schneider. Discussion, Ms. Tobin.
So we obtained 4 quotes for moving of the project. One quote was substantially higher. One quote, they were not able to do the move until sometime in November. One quote was slightly lower than this, but it was an hourly charge of, I think it was $571 an hour, and they were estimating 16 hours. So in my mind, what if you go over every single hour, whereas this is flat rate. It is what it is, because we're not really sure exactly what they're going to get into. This company came back twice, different size boxes, trying to see what would fit. I mean, they did their due diligence. So I was really comfortable with this quote. So if it's approved tonight, I did not want to take it to county board next week. I wanted it to just be done at committee so that we can get on their schedule, and we'd be looking at moving everything the week of October 21st.
Rehabbing any of this, just boxing it up. Once it's in the location, or we have somebody preserving records or something like that. This is just a moving company that's.
And they're packing and moving, because there's a lot of items that are not in boxes. So they're packing and moving.
Any other question? Mr. Larson.
Do they try to identify what's in the different boxes, or it's just going to be mystery once it gets over there?
So it's a good question. So a lot of our department heads be notified when it's happening, because they want to try and be there. And as much as we can, we'll try and divert things to different locations if we can tell what they are. Like, okay, that's state's attorney. Let's try and put that stuff over there. This is building department. Let's try. And so we're going to try and organize the best we can. It won't be perfect. There's a lot of the old documents that they're basically just going to be boxing and putting in a room for us to go through. But yeah, the best we can.
Ms. Branson?
Is this going to be within the bank somewhere, or is this going to be at a separate building that they own?
Oh, this will be the second floor of the bank. Yep, we've rented a space that's 3,300 square feet.
Okay.
And we also, potentially, depending how quickly we can dispose of some of it, the items that can be disposed of and be shredded per state statute, this might be able to be office space for people that get misplaced during some of the construction projects too.
Great idea.
Ms. Patterson.
Am I reading this right? They're anticipating 500 boxes and 3,600 record books,
Yes,
right?
that is correct. And the boxes, here again, and that's what I also like about theirs, that's the estimated, material packing. We're only paying for what they use. So if they end up not needing, that many packaging material, we won't have to pay for it. But yeah, it's a lot. Some of those books are so big that they only fit, you might only get 2 or 3 books to a box. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from Ms. Tobin? All in favor, or
You need this voted on, right?
Correct.
Okay, first off, I didn't take the note. Who made the motion?
I did.
Mr. Larson and Mr. Schneider second.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call vote,
Okay, yeah.
please.
Rodney Riley, yes. Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Brian Schneider,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Aye.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Brent Mueller,
Aye.
Tom Walberg,
Aye.
Elisa Patterson,
Yes.
Dana Logston,
Yes.
Sherry Branson,
Yes.
Carl Johnson,
Aye.
and Marion Thornberry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to 7.6, motion to authorize the Boone County Board Chairman to sign letters of support for any pre-authorized broadband vendors in the BEAD application process.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Larson, second by Mr. Thornberry. Discussion? Ms. Tobin?
I can try and answer some of this. Justin might be able to as well. We're starting to have some of our technology vendors start to ask for letters of support. They're the ones that ultimately apply for this funding that would bring broadband back to our county. It runs through the vendors, but they have to have letters of support from different municipal entities from within the county. So instead of having to bring a letter to you every time an entity requests a letter, we thought it would just be a good idea, or I should say Justin thought it was a good idea to just bring it ahead of time and get your support. That way we can get those letters out.
All right, Ms. Patterson?
Will this be the same letter every time? Is it a repetitive same thing? Okay.
Yeah, it'll be the same letter for every single entity.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Moving on to 7.7. Fiscal year 2025 grant request growth dimensions. CASA, Boone County Soil and Water. Discussion? Ms. Tobin?
They're all here. I think Pam is on the line.
Yep.
And we have representatives from CASA and Soil and Water here as well. Each one probably will present.
Yeah, Pam, would you like to go on growth dimensions, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. On behalf of our board, we would like to thank you for your continued support for economic development and growth in Boone County. And we know that our partnership is very vital, instrumental to maintaining our economic vitality for our residents and business. So we are aware that the projected county revenue streams are heavily dependent on commercial and industrial growth. And we have demonstrated our ability to influence and create these opportunities, resulting in tremendous impact over the past several years. And we want to continue that impact. And right now we have identified over 4 million square feet of space occupied by new and expanding business, 6,000 new jobs, and $8.5 billion invested. So in recognition to our expansion and resources for small businesses and continued activities for growth, we're asking that the county invest $35,000 to growth dimensions and economic development for Boone County.
Any discussion on that? Mr. Wiltsey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have spoken on this each year. If we had to have a community development department like a municipality would have, or some counties have, we'd have to have a director. And the director would be 70, 80,000, whatever. Then we'd have to have a staff for the director. Both Dimensions operates outside our purview from the standpoint of they've got their own fundraising, they've got some of their own goals, but they are in need of support of us to continue to maintain the good job they've done bringing business into Boone County, keeping our profile high. There's no way that we could do that for $35,000 if we tried to bring this in-house. And so I'm very strongly supportive of this and my colleagues to support this.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I would wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Wiltse's comments. I think the fact that we only give them $35,000 a year is laughable for what Growth Dimensions does to help bring businesses and help retain businesses to our community. It's the only economic avenue that we participate in. And to say that we want to promote business and promote jobs and things in this community and only spend $35,000 a year to do it is ludicrous in my opinion. So I would be 100% in favor of boosting that to a more equitable number. I think we've cut it over the years. In fact, I think the last couple of budgets we've tried to cut it, as I recall. As long as I've been on the board, this board is constantly trying to cut Growth Dimensions. I believe we used to give them $50,000 a year. That was several years ago. So again, $35,000 in my opinion is an absolute minimum amount. And I still think that's a joke and we should consider up that.
Ms. Branson.
I have no problems with the work that they do. They do a phenomenal job. I would leave it at 35,000 because we just last week we heard from our attorneys that we have an ASA that's making $66,000 a year. We have clerks in our county clerk's office there that are making almost nothing over minimum wage. We have to be very careful. We are very frugal with the taxpayers' dollars. And our taxpayers are strapped too. You know, the cost of living has gone up and up and up, and we need to be frugal with their money. And I think that it's smart to leave it at 35,000, and I would support leaving it at 35,000.
Mr. Curry.
I don't argue on either, but this is the entity that grows our tax base that lowers those tax dollars. So if there's any investment going on, this is the entity that we intelligently budget, because the business development throughout the county, which turns the city, is what swallows up our tax base so that we can lower our property taxes and make everybody happy, or at least stay the same. We combat the schools, I understand that, in the parks, but on the county side of things, this is where we invest. These are the people we invest. We've had how many budgets come in front of us? We've argued a few, we've debated a few, we've seen some giant leaps under DeCola, our cost of living. And it's a modest, and you know, I've talked to a few board members on it. It is modest. If they're happy with this, I'm happy with that. So if this is what Pam's asking for, I will support what Pam is asking for. This is something that, you know, if she were to ask probably for more, as Carl said, I would probably, this isn't the place where I would cut. So I appreciate you being, and you know, we also have to approach this intelligently, but this is where intelligent decisions are made, investing back into our community. So I would say everything coming through, we have obviously everybody presenting, it's stressful. We have huge projects going on. It's a lot to pile on right now financially, but this is who grows our community. This is who takes our comprehensive plan and creates something amazing, and then creates jobs and investment. So I would say that not the one that we cut and we promote growth with, so. That's all I'll say.
Mr. Wahlberg.
I'll be short. This is a huge return on investment. So I support this.
Thank you. Pam, I got one quick question for you on what is your guys' total budget?
Our total budget, we're currently in the process of developing a budget for next year. But in this past year, I apologize, I don't have that number right in front of me, but I believe it was 390,000. It was close to that. I can give you a more precise number.
No, that's not between 350 and 400,000 roughly.
Correct. It's under 400,000, definitely.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Every year I do want to also note that every year we do try to stay not only within budget, but we also try to be below budget and try to use some of resources that we have invested in CDs for things like long-term investments, like our facility and long-term planning. But that has dwindled in the past few years.
Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Mr. Curry.
Pam, you guys, what percent do you guys get grant wise? Is there a way to?
All of our grants are passed through. We receive resources on behalf of the district, the school districts, in order to pass through for building internships and bridges between the high schools, the colleges, and our students and the workforce. So we don't take any money because we want all of those dollars to go into the programs. So we don't receive any grant funding directly.
Thank you. I appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Riley.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. I have spent the last almost 2 years sitting in on the executive meetings of Growth Dimensions. I've learned a lot over these last couple of years, things that I didn't know before, and nobody has a richer value for what Growth Dimensions does than I do. I understand that it would be nice to give them, everything they ask for. But at the meeting on August 21st, I brought it to the executive board's attention that while I was aware that the city of Belvedere had cut their funding to Growth Dimensions, and for reasons that's the city's business. That's not my business as the county, but that's what they decided to do. I only asked at the Growth Dimensions when it was coming time for, and I knew it was coming time for budgeting, that they not ask us to backfill what the city didn't give them. So with that in mind, I was hoping that they would stay at the 35,000 mark. I explained at that time, at that particular meeting, that we have a lot of capital projects. We have the courthouse expansion. We have the health department expansion or remodel. We have the McKinley building we're still working on. All these projects are draining our funds, and these are things that we planned on. I realize it's only $10,000. They were asking for, I'll be quite honest with the whole board here and everyone in the audience, they were asking for 45,000. And I understand that. I sat in this chair listening to other issues as somebody brought up the wages. And we keep getting reminded by board members that this is taxpayer money. And that's exactly what this is. This is taxpayer money. And I think we need to be spending it wisely. I am not questioning or demeaning Growth Dimensions goal, what they have brought to us. We also have to remember that we have Region 1 that does a tremendous amount of work for us. We have to pay them too. So I'm just what I was trying to get across here is, while we appreciate everything they do, and we know the value that they are, to just help us out this year, keep their request at the same as it was last year, so we could muddle through some of these other projects and keep things moving in the right direction. So that's why I asked for what I asked for. I spoke to a couple of the other board members, executive board members. They understood exactly where I was coming from. Spoke to a couple of them just last night and Pam as well. And they understand where I was coming from in this request. So I think we're doing well with the 35,000. My intention was never to cut funding for growth dimensions in any way. But I just think this year we need to keep it right where it's at. So thank you.
Mr. Thornberry.
I said on growth dimensions forward from 2012 to 2014. Without getting into a whole lot of particulars here, there's a lot of things that growth dimensions does that I don't agree with. A lot of the general public that don't agree with what they do. But I will vote for 35,000, but not anymore.
Mr. Curry.
If, maybe Chairman Riley or someone smarter than I could answer this question. If they needed more money throughout the year, if something were to happen, we're able to at least listen to that request, correct?
I think it would be part.
Yeah.
Sure. Becky,
I
what do
mean,
you
if
think?
something were to come up, obviously, for some reason, the city has made their choice. Like you said, it's not our business, but just, I don't know. Worst case scenario.
Thank you, Ray.
Mr. Johnson.
Just in conjunction with Mr. Curry's question, it would depend solely on how much revenues we had or how much we had in our budget under miscellaneous spending that we could adjust. We can't just decide in the middle of a budget year when a line item's over budget to spend more. We have to have some discretionary spending. And if that discretionary spending doesn't need to be used on air conditioner or new windows suddenly or something like that, then we could. But you can't just say, well, we didn't spend enough money on parking lot ceiling. You can't take that money necessarily and give it to the growth dimensions. There's different buckets and you can only move buckets in certain ways.
Okay.
So it's flexible, but it's not flexible.
Follow-up question. And what's the amount of reserves that you guys have? Is that an appropriate question?
Yes, we actually don't have reserves. We did invest in CDs. I believe it's close to 200,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for Pam? All right, moving on to CASA. Thanks, Pam.
So I'm Jen Sisson. I'm representing Boone County CASA tonight. As you know, Boone County CASA advocates for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Without the CASA program, the court system would be legally required to appoint a private attorney for these children, costing the taxpayers thousands of dollars. So for example, the number of children served in September was 67. The average hours worked per month per child is 6. If we used a private attorney, saying it's $100 per hour, we would save the taxpayers approximately $40,000 in just 1 month. It's imperative both financially and for the health and safety of the children for Boone County CASA to receive funding to continue the mission of advocating for children. We've advocated for 86 children so far in 2024, and our program continues to serve 100% of the children involved in the Boone County juvenile abuse and neglect court system. Our program relies heavily on grant funding, which is never guaranteed and is always fluctuating. The CASA program in the past has always greatly appreciated the generosity of the Boone County Board in providing stable funding for our organization. We also do a strong push towards diversifying our income through various fundraisers and community events. Not only does it provide income for, but it also raises awareness in the community. We also do receive fees through the Boone County Clerk's Office. This varies monthly based on the court fees collected. So through September of 2024, we received about 19,000 in those fees. This year, we are respectively requesting funding from you guys in the amount of 35,000, which will continue to provide stability for our organization as well as replace our computers. This is down from last year's funding, which was about, I think we got 60 or 65,000. We did find out that we were awarded a grant. So we'll be getting that in 2025. So we are reducing our request for funding.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, I guess we'll move on to soil and water. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Heather is the new place Tegan.
Okay.
Soil and water.
I'm a little fresh and I've never been to a board meeting like this, so you'll excuse me if I'm a little nervous.
Thank you, Heather.
So soil and water involved, well, I heard you mention the health department were involved in some of the planning for that infrastructure to go in. I know we've asked for 20,000 the past several years. We didn't raise it this year. We've kept it the same. We did unfortunately get a 48% cut from the state in our grant funding, which is the main source of our funding for soil and water. So we'll be receiving about $32,000 less in the coming year for our funding. And I am a one-person army over at Soil and Water. So we provide a lot of services that other agencies aren't, providing. We do the NRI reports for county and city of Belvedere and the surrounding cities. And then the soil erosion and sediment control inspections we do for new developments as well. So we provide a lot of essential services regarding soil and water in the area.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Curry.
Yeah, reiterate, I'm sorry, tough to hear. How much did the state cut you by?
It was 48%.
48%.
Was the percentage, and that is statewide. So I think there's about 98 districts in total in the state. And so what that looks like for our district here in Boone County, it comes out to about $32,000. That will be.
I asked that because of all this grant money and investment into solar and this renewable energy, yet we cut a program by almost 50% to protect our soil and water.
Yeah.
Something's not right. So
yeah,
I just want that to be loud and reported on a record.
We don't have a lot of answers as to why that happened.
I do.
Well,
yeah,
I'm sure there's some speculation, and they're working to restore it. If some of you are farmers, and actually a few of you I've probably spoken with, because we do a lot of conservation work as well. There are petitions going around to sign to try and restore some of our funding. So we're working hard, but no word yet. Yes.
Any other questions? Mr. Riley? I have to agree with Mr. Curry. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, Ryan, that they, taking over the legislation and, all that on the solar farms, yet they cut the funding to the people that it's, it's hurting, but unfortunately, that's the way we are here in Illinois sometimes. So, all right. Okay. Thank you for your report. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we appreciate
the other questions.
County support, all these things.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to 7.8 Animal Services Operating Fund 2025 deficit.
Probably start that one.
Go ahead, Becky.
So as we talked about last month, when Animal Services was presenting their budget, we are going to be running a deficit of about 13,000. There's 12 and some change. A little over 12,000. And there was some discussion as to how to make up that deficit. So I wanted to bring that back up for discussion so that we can, get moving on any type of resolution that the board wants to come to. I know the one thing that was suggested that would not raise the fees, just restructuring the fee, the amount that goes into the maintenance fund, at least just for next year, where half of that could come into the operating fund while we pursue the other avenue of asking the municipalities to help pay for the services at animal control. So that was one thing we tossed around. I just wanted to get a sense of what you wanted to do. And that way then next month we could come back with if we need to change any ordinances, because that is an ordinance form, which I copied for you somewhere. Yeah, so part of the ordinance does say that $5 from the sale of all registration tags shall be deposited to the building and maintenance fund. So that would be a change in the ordinance.
Mr. Riley.
What we could do is we could raise that amount then, is that what we're saying?
Well, you could change that. Instead of $5, maybe it's $2.50 from each tag, was to go into the maintenance fund. That's if you don't want to raise the tag fee. The other option would be to raise the tag fee, which I don't think anybody really wants to do at this time. So, and like I said, this could just be a 1-year deal while we try and work on the other with the state's attorney to see if it's viable for us to ask the municipalities to start paying.
Mr. Curry.
Yeah, I know we had this conversation, and to help me understand, I know we had spoken about a percentage that goes to maintenance fund that was a higher percentage than normal. Have we adjusted that, or is this the time we do that? What is the percentage? Wasn't it like incomparable to other places? You've built that account up so high that in reality, we could probably cut that percentage.
Between 15 and 20. It depends on the tag that's purchased. A lot of your animals are spay or neutered. So out of that $25 tag, $5 of it, you have 20% that's being allocated to the maintenance fund. So
is that what
I did a 12-month average. It's been a while since I've done it, but I did a 12-month average a period of time ago, and it came out to 15.9%. And in the same conversation that previously mentioned that industry normal contributions for infrastructure is between 2 and 5% of the gross, and we're putting in excess of 15% towards infrastructure.
We're eating ourselves, is what you're saying. We have a lot of funds in this, and we could use them here.
Yes. And it is important to have those funds available. Some natural disaster happens and tears off a roof. It's nice to have that money there. We had spent $30,000 this year on an HVAC issue that's just here. It was nice to have that there and not have to go looking for it. It's nice and it's important to have, but it is well funded. That fund has around $100,000 in it now, and we are going to be in the red at the end of this fiscal year. And we'll start the next one well into the red, which is new. Since I've been here, we've always finished in the black at the end of the year. We're not able to do that this year, and I don't think we won't be able to do it next year unless we make a change. Changing fees has been discussed here before. It didn't seem to get a lot of favor. I don't know that it's necessary right now. And I think Ms. Tobin and I would prefer to go to the municipalities, as we discussed a couple of months ago, and try to get them to pony up some money. We're doing a lot of stuff in their jurisdictions that we're not required to do. And our feeling is that we need to have that conversation again. It was had many years ago and didn't go anywhere, but we would like to try again. And until we can get them to agree to that, I think changing the funding of Fund 11 from $5 per tag sold to a percentage around 10%. I think we've had this discussion on our own or whatever, and I think 10% is sort of where we've come up with would be a good place to start and keep the Animal Services Fund 12, afloat, I guess, for the next year.
Ms. Patterson.
Can I ask why? I mean, the tag fees have not been raised since 2013. Is there a reason why you don't want to at least start to incrementally raise them? Like I know in other counties, it's more. So where's the mindset?
We are kind of in the middle of different neighbors. They are higher to the west and lower to the east. Those jurisdictions are also partially funded through taxpayer dollars as well. You know my background coming from our neighbors to the west. Around half of their budget comes from municipality funds. So the jurisdictions, the 11 jurisdictions that pay the county, a proportional part of their budget based on the number of calls that are done in their different jurisdictions. We feel like we could make something like that work here. The public is paying more for literally everything. And if we can figure out a way to make this work without making them pay more for rabies tags, we're happy to do that.
I get it.
We at the time we're going to come the time where we're going to have to raise the fees. We realize that, but if we can come up with something else to make it work, in the interim, we would like to try that instead. But we just need to feedback from the board.
Okay, Mr. Riley.
You kind of answered I think you kind of answered my question. It's not uncommon to build municipalities within the county, correct? We've never done that, I assume. Okay. I think that.
It is used.
Tried.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. We've tried in the past?
We tried.
Okay.
Yes.
I assume it was just a flat no from the municipalities, or what's the history?
All the municipalities were on board except for the city of Belvedere. At that time, they felt like it was double dipping, like all the residents were already paying the tags, therefore they shouldn't have to pay more. The state's attorney at the time, there was, I don't know if there was ever a written opinion, and I know our state's attorney's office is working on it as well, as to what is considered required by statute and what isn't.
Right.
At that point in time, answering to dog bites, loose dogs, obviously the rabies was all required by the statute. And I think that's interpreted differently in some places, especially Winnebago. So I think that's what we want to try and review.
I'd be fully supportive of that. I think we should be asking
I can say something real quick. I realize there's a couple of board members over here. Real quick, just to piggyback on what Ms. Tobin's talking about. We're doing a lot of things that's not required by the Illinois Animal Control Act.
Yeah.
So they were making that argument many years ago before I came over here that they're already paying. Why should they pay more? But we're doing stuff that they're not actually paying for. And the only people that are paying anything are people that are registering their dogs and cats. But we do stuff for people that don't own any pets. They have, wildlife issues, or there's all kinds of things that people need help from us for, but they don't own pets. So they're not contributing anything. I think that's.
Okay.
Thanks, Rick.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I am not in favor of raising the tag fees at all. When the fees were originally raised to whatever level they're at now, it was like the highest in the entire area. So it's kind of nice if we've fallen down to be in the middle finally. That's kind of nice. So I'm not in favor of that. I would be fine with, at least for this first year, adjusting that maintenance fee. Now, you said that maintenance fund has $100,000 in it?
Pretty close to 100,000 right now, isn't it?
I just didn't see it in the budget count sheet here. Am I?
It's right there. Line, it's fund number 11. The balance is $99,225.80.
What sheet is that on?
The top page.
Not on the computer, the thing that.
Oh, it's on what Kurt gave.
And
No, that,
Online stuff, so.
Mr. Johnson, while we're talking about that, be aware that is after pretty close to $30,000 pool for all of the different parts of that HVAC expense. So after doing all of that, we still have a pretty close to 100,000.
And that fund was put in.
This year was a really bad year for that fund. As you know, most years we're putting $25,000-$30,000 into that fund.
Yeah, right. And that fund was originally, I was on the board when we did that. It was there to help pay for those maintenance items because we didn't want to, at the time, there were no extra revenues coming into the county, so we couldn't afford it. So we had to try and plan for the future. So I think that was great by that board that did that to plan for that future. So you had that money to do that. So I think it's more than acceptable to take some of that money to come up with this balance. As far as getting the cities to pay, I'm all for it, 100%, always have been. And like Ms. Tobin said, most communities have been on board with doing it, except the city of Belvedere. They've always been against it. I'm a firm believer that if they don't want to pay for it, then we don't do it.
especially
Do what the state minimum is, and period. If they want to help contribute, and we probably wouldn't even ask for tens of thousands of dollars, but I mean, something to help keep our services department afloat would be nice.
All right, Ms. Branson.
I have to agree. I don't know exactly what it is that you do that you're not getting reimbursed for, the cities. But could you tell us what those things are? And I agree, so just stop doing it if they're not going to pay for it.
Probably the biggest thing is there's nothing in the Animal Control Act pertaining to wildlife calls at all, but everybody wants the stuff done. We're not required to do anything pertaining to wildlife. We just let people know every time they call, but nobody wants to live in that type of an environment. They're, and they don't pay for that. Nobody pays for it.
Some call the mayor.
I mean, that's the short answer. There's a bunch of other things too. Nobody pays for, like the neighbor's dog barking or anything like that. Chances are that the person that owns the barking dog may not even be paying anyway because they may not have registered their dog.
Mr. Thorne.
Gotcha.
Back when we did this before in 2012, 2013, nobody would pay for this. But when you ask them who's responsible for picking up that runaway dog, it's the animal services. Yeah, but they're coming into your community and picking up the runaway dogs, and they're a county organization. Yeah, but we're paying county taxes. That's their job. Let them do it. But that's another story. How much do you charge for registration fees? Because that's what you gotta have, whether you get a tag or a shot or whatever.
You want all 8 of them?
Pardon me?
You want all 8 of them?
It's up there.
Just want to know how much it costs if I'm buying a tag.
Miss Tony had it published there if you, the most common one that we sell is a 1-year altered dog registration that is $25. That's the one that we sell the most of.
And that's whether you get the shot from you or somewhere else.
We don't do rabies vaccinations on people's pets unless the animal ends up at the shelter for a bite quarantine. That's the only time that we have other people's dogs vaccinated.
That's right. I could explain it here.
Okay, Mr. Lawyer.
So when you bring your dog to the vet, you get a new puppy, bring him to the vet. The vet's required to give him the vaccine and they charge him the part of the money then. So then so then your vet basically kind of keeping track instead of them, whether your pet is vaccinated. But yeah, so it's mainly goes through a veterinarian when you bring your animal to it,
There's a, sorry to step in, buddy. There's a section of the animal code that requires veterinary clinics to notify the local animal services agency and wherever the locale is, time they vaccinate a dog or a cat for rabies, they have to forward a rabies certificate to that animal services department. A lot of those pet owners are already buying those tickets at the vet clinic, and the Coming up later this month, actually, we're gonna probably spend somewhere around $4,000 to get 13,000 rabies tags for next year. And we will distribute them to all of the different vet clinics that sell our tags. And we keep around 2,500 of them for the shelter that we sell also. But those vet clinics forward us the certificates that either has the tag number of the tag that the person bought at the clinic, or if they didn't buy it there, and they do get a 30-day period to purchase it. So if they're getting it at the shelter, we have a record of who got the dog or cat vaccinated, but still has to register it. And then we also send them out a letter letting them know, hey, your vet clinic told us you got your pet vaccinated, but did not buy a tag yet. You've got 30 days to come and do that. We generate a lot of additional revenue through reminding people that they are in fact required by a county ordinance and a state law to come and take care of that as well.
Okay, Mr. Schneider, Jason. I know that we use the State Street Clinic and that's how it's done there when we take ours in for their vaccinations. Then they do the fees for the tags right away there, and that way it's done. And I think that's kind of automatic there, if I'm not mistaken.
State Street Animal Clinic sells the vast majority of our rabies registrations. They sell more of them than any other clinic.
Okay. Mr. Curry?
If a raccoon gets hit by a car, city of Belvedere, they call you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we go out.
Things in their attics, raccoons, squirrels, all kinds of stuff. You guys get calls nonstop, do you not? What are the percentage of calls that you receive that are from the city of Belvedere? Obviously not for exact, but just around.
It's been a while since I've done the percentage to be fair, but the percentage of the total, the most significant part is in the city of Belvedere.
Okay. So
it's the large population center of our county, so you would expect that.
Forgive me because I'm ignorant when it comes to this process. Is this something you go in front of city council and present with those numbers, with them telling you that you're an entity that's now operating just isn't conducive?
In my mind, I'm seeing Ms. Tobin and I, probably somebody from the state's attorney's office. Sorry, Carla. Meeting with Mr. Morris and one or two of their board members, and starting with the conversation is probably going to go in front of the city council. I'm sure it will.
Have we had that conversation with Mayor Morris? I would recommend and don't have to do this.
If we're getting a green light from the majority of the board members today, then that's something that.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's give them a chance, an opportunity to at least, or they're, we can't say they didn't do something if we didn't ask them. And
I mentioned this the last time I was up here too, that they did recently adopt their own number of animals ordinance, which is new. They haven't had one previous. I think they did. They changed it, and it's not in the animal code. It's in their zoning code or whatever. So we wouldn't enforce it. And I was thinking maybe we could pitch that to them in the same conversation. Listen, this isn't in the animal code, so we wouldn't normally enforce it. However, if you want to agree to, this, like having an arrangement or whatever, where they start contributing financially some amount of money that we agree to, we could have a memorandum of understanding that we would enforce that part of their code for them also.
But before you increase scope of work, just make sure they're paying for the work now. So I'm not saying not to do that.
Just to
but 100%
something to add to it to make it more interesting for them.
make sure you're not selling you guys are already strapped as it is with calls.
Right now, when people call us, we tell them you need to call the city building department. It is not in the animal code. They want us to handle that, and it's part of that conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Ms. Branson?
I'm a firm supporter of starting with the soft-spoken gentle approach first before you take extra actions. But do your homework before you have that conversation. So I would recommend that you make a list of everything that you do that you don't think is required. And submit that to our state's attorney's office for review of the law and let them write up an interpretation, their interpretation of what is and is not required. So that way you've got something in your hand when you sit down with your meeting with the mayor and say, you're respectfully requesting X amount of money to cover your cost. And here's everything that you provide the city of Belvedere currently at no cost, but you cannot continue to do so effective certain whatever date out in the future. You're going to stop doing that, but you'd like to have a conversation first and see what happens from that. That way you've got everything in writing in front of you and see what they come back with.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Riley?
Just going off of that, that's a conversation we need to have with all of the leaders of all the municipalities, villages here in Boone County. I mean, we got to make sure everybody's on board. I
have to be
stated that
all of them.
everybody was on board but the city. I don't want to, isolate the city. Agreement we need to have across the county with everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
Have to be, they'll have to be everybody.
Anything else from Mr. Rick? Ms. Tobin?
Are we in favor of bringing something back that, at least for a year to change this ordinance so that we can divert some of that revenue to our operating?
Remove it. Just to piggyback on what she's saying, I mentioned the percentage. Ms. Tobin had mentioned maybe $2.50 per tag instead of $5. In conversations with Mr. Newport, I think that the understanding that he and I have and Karen, it would make their jobs easier down there if we used a percentage instead of a dollar amount. Yeah, and what we're looking at right now is like at the end of each quarter, slicing 10% of the gross receipts for that period and putting it into 11 instead of figuring out how many tags were sold and what dollars and cents count per each one of those. It would just be easier. We feel like if we went to a percentage, that makes sense. Yeah.
The only question with that, and you and I can talk about this, if it's $5 per tag, does that mean somebody who buys a $75 tag is only paying $5 towards the maintenance fund? Because then you don't want to go 10%, because if you take 10% of a $75 tag, that's $750. That's more. Well, we may have to look at that.
Talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. We can bring something back.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. It was just sort of repeating a conversation that Mr. Newport and I had, and apparently neither him or I had thought about that interesting point. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Anything else, Ms. Tobin? Thank you. Moving on to 7.9 fiscal year 2025 budget presentations for administration and technology, county board, other professional services and capital. Becky, would you like to take the administrations first or?
I could, otherwise, Joe's here for IT.
Okay.
Let Joe.
So you want to come up for informational technology, please?
Good evening. The biggest changes with the IT budget this year are moving to Comcast fiber. The reason we are doing that is to expand the current fiber network we have to include the last 3 county buildings. We currently have 2 connected, PSB and administration here. But
Otherwise, everything is on board docs. Do you have the breakdown? I don't know if anyone's even interested in that. Over, just over $30,000 less than last year. If there's any questions regarding the budget, I'm happy.
Anybody?
Yes.
Ms. Tobin, anything?
I was just going to comment, you'll notice under data processing, there's a 0 because we are no longer having Paylocity to our payroll. So we're cost savings there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right.
Yep, you too. Becky, you want to move on to administration or you want to do?
Sure. We can take care of some of these. Administration, there's nothing out of the ordinary here. Minor increases for equipment maintenance, office supplies. Obviously wages, just like the others are, with the proposed 3%. If there's any question on that budget, I can answer, and there's really nothing exciting. Same with county board. There really isn't any question. I did increase the training a little bit. Maybe with some new board members coming on, there might be a little bit more of training expenses. So no real changes there. Logan Avenue maintenance. Same thing, pretty much status quo. A little bit of increase for utilities. Other professional services and capital. I guess we can get into capital if you want to get into some of the capital expenses here. This is actually less for next year, will actually be less capital than this year, obviously with all the construction projects going on. We're just not budgeting as much capital expense. I have a breakdown of the capital outlay. Whoops. My breakdown. Oh, there it is. This is what potentially could look like for 2025. You have a few items for corrections. Administration would include a sound system upgrade. Is there anybody opposed to a sound system upgrade in the boardroom? Here.
I just got a question. The $5,000 for the original, just updating what we have, I don't know, that's it. Are we buying gold-plated mics or what are we doing there?
Yeah, it would have stayed on the analog system, and Michelle could explain it.
Well, it's like almost 10,000 for the digital.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know, that's just seems very expensive to me because I have microphones, I have soundboards, and they must be like almost gold plated items here or something.
It replaces this whole system down here. Yeah, I just know it takes us from the analog to the digital.
Well, the analog one, the one that's just under 5,000, that includes an audio mixer because right now we have no room for additional microphones. So we would get the mixer and the 2 microphones. They do the installation and configure, but replacing the entire system with digital is almost double that. But this system was purchased before we moved into this building in 2009. So we could pay the 5,000 and then 2 years from now not be able to replace a part from the analog portion. So that's why we're recommending to go with the digital at 10,000.
I don't know. I just know you can buy like I don't even know how, you could probably buy like a 48 channel mixing board, top of the line might be $10,000, where it just seems like way more money. You could get a couple extra channel mixing board for probably $100 or $200. I don't see why it's costing so much. It must just be to the people that are doing it or just charging us extra, I guess. I don't know.
Well, everything's connected to the
Yeah, I understand how.
system in here, and that So
Mr. Curry.
Just a question. I'm OCD as can be, and this drives me nuts. Are they gonna like bury wires, mount microphones, something nice that looks good in here that's not that part of?
microphones would stay the same.
These.
Oh, those aren't part of the sound system. Those are part of the
For the internet.
system for recording and streaming. They are not part of the sound system.
But they're still gonna be here?
Yeah.
What if we sold the DVD player back there? Would that offset some of the costs?
Not by much.
Just checking.
It was deleted a long time ago.
Mr. Thornberry.
Let me catch up here. I think we need to add some more stuff to this. But if you stand up and look at your chairs, they're falling apart. They were bought the same time as the mic systems. So we need new chairs up here. Put those on your budget too.
I second that.
That's one of those in the daily chair.
You do?
Here's what
All right. You didn't-
I don't know. Did we actually have somebody come in and, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Mr. Larson.
did we actually have somebody come and look at this stuff or? Because like Mr. Curry is just saying, yeah, we have these other microphones that they're just for the Zoom. There's no reason. Our main system should be able to do whatever we want. We shouldn't have to have.
Two systems?
Yeah, it's.
Mr. Thornberry.
Has anybody actually looked at this or I don't know. I don't see how they would give us like the $5,000 estimate and they're just gonna leave all this clutter everywhere. It shouldn't be.
That's
I
just,
think they could do a better job. I know they could, but.
it's just for upgrading the system back there. Now historically, that has, I guess, belonged to the county clerk's office. They paid for that. They do the recordings on there for county board. They don't use our recordings here. I don't know why that is. It's always been that way. We could get somebody to look at combining the systems, but in doing that, it's going to be over 10,000, way over 10,000 because the Zoom setup was over 30,000. And that was what, in 20? I think it was in 20 we put this in.
Mr. Thornberry.
Whatever we do, we need to get rid of these mics. Because everybody in here knows that 90% of the time they only work or they only work halfway. You can't hear half of the people that are up there talking because they tend to back away from the mics. We need to have something in here like this to where they don't have a choice.
They do, they use mine.
Well, I think part of that, I think there
That's what-
were rechargeable batteries in here and the battery died out like 5 minutes after the meeting started. So.
Well, the other day when we were working on it in here, I think it was last week, if you take the cover off of the battery portion of it, it worked fine. You put the cover back on, it don't work. Excuse me.
All right, Mr. Curry.
I think this is one of the anomalies that was expensive. Like when VCR first comes out, they were extremely expensive. As time has progressed, equipment has become, you can buy a giant TV for $400 now. I think it's one of those things where it might be cheaper. It's at least worth looking into. I appreciate all the,
Oh,
first of all, the work you guys did, but maybe.
No, we'll definitely get more quotes. We're just looking to put
For
something
that.
in the budget
Okay.
so that, no, we'll definitely get more quotes. This is the first go at it.
I'd also like $67 per meeting. Someone's got to pay the gas bills. Can't survive on it.
Okay. Mr. Wiltie.
Thank you. Seriously, on that point, I think I talked about this last time. We were at 65. We can't raise our salaries during the course of our term. But if we don't change that number to 75 for the subsequent elections, it's going to be a real joke in 4 or 5 years. It's not that we do this for money, but I mean, we want to cut our expenses.
So, I was on FS board And the per diem for that meeting is $400. I'm kind of like, well, why is it so expensive for a 2-hour meeting? He goes, we want quality candidates in here. We're going to pay to make sure the candidates are in here. So and that was just a 2-hour meeting, and that was just to pick a candidate that I got a $400 per diem. Going off the board, I would recommend that this board actually looks at increasing the per diems to $100 per person. I mean, we're sitting here making decisions for the county, and it's, you want good quality candidates in here, and we should be paying attention to what's going on in the county and the due diligence that I've put in for the last 2.5 years. I'll be going off the board here in December, but the amount of effort I've put in way outweighs the little per diem that I get. So I would highly recommend that we up the per diems for either fiscal year 2025 or 2026. So. Any more discussion? Mr. Logston.
Okay, yeah, I don't care about the money, but I do care about the sound system. That poor girl was standing up there like, maybe 20 minutes ago or whatever. I could not hear a word she was saying, and it sounded like it was important about soil and water. Couldn't hear anything, so I was like, what? Okay, so the reason you want to upgrade to the digital is because, first of all, you get to keep these microphones, these guys, and these are expensive. These are like $400 a piece. And you want a digital system, especially with the BSS that they're asking for, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to have central control, like right from here. That way, Aaron's not going to have to get up in the middle of a meeting, walk behind Rodney, go trying to tweak it. And yeah, I think I am 100% behind upgrading the sound system in this place. So, and I'd love to be a part of it too. When they finally pull the trigger, I'd be more than happy. And I would do that for free. I'd be part of it for free. And I don't need $65 to do it either.
There you go.
That motion.
Hear ye, hear ye. Okay. Any more discussion? So, Tobin, do you have anything to add to it?
I do not.
What other professional services, or is it capital, all that covered, or?
Yep, most of these are all items that you had seen before, with the one exception, because we did not have the quote yet, was the coroner's new 8-person cooler, which is definitely more expensive than I thought it was. But this is what would be moved to McKinley Avenue to the new space. Currently, she has a 6-person cooler, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, this is definitely nicer. Correct. And we would have to go to bid for it anyway, based on the price, but this is just gives us a number to go off of. And then the other big expense is the roof replacement for the jail, which the estimate came in at $378,000. It's the new portion of the jail.
Can't get insurance.
No, this is just regular wear and tear replacement.
Had a hailstorm, right? Tornado? I've got knock on my door 3 days a week. Mr. Thornberry?
I'm not that familiar with corrections, but why do they need a walk-in cooler? I mean, they're supposed to control the prisoners, not freeze them to death.
It's the kitchen.
More.
Oh, he's looking at the sections.
For corrections.
Morgue is for the county court.
Corrections, the jail, I gotta feed people.
Somebody dies in the prison. They make bologna sandwiches.
I missed it.
All right, okay.
What were you talking about, Becky?
Yeah, it's for the kitchen,
It has to operate as a,
the commercial kitchen.
yeah, it has to operate as a commercial kitchen. I think we're under codes that we have to have some of the stuff. I mean, the what do they call the state, who inspects the jails and stuff, the correctional facilities. There's certain standards that have to be, and I'm sure we're not going above and beyond what we have to have, Marion. So.
Mr. Perry.
Probably not okay to take the current coroner's cooler.
Okay.
It's nice.
That's funny.
Spurred one stone.
And
We're gonna need a bigger freezer.
In the barrel.
I'm all for recycling.
All right. Anything else into the budget, Ms. Tobin?
Under capital, if there's no questions there.
All right, moving on to,
Ms. Patterson is.
oh, sorry, Ms.
Again, I don't want this to be inappropriate, but can we sell the other cooler?
Funeral homes would buy them.
I imagine, I mean, it still works.
Right.
I mean, I did have a discussion with her about keeping the one she has.
Right. Okay,
You'd be surprised.
right?
That's good. Yeah.
Doing the restaurant calls.
Okay, moving on to 7.1 fiscal year 2025 wages and salaries.
7.10.
Yeah.
It's okay.
1-0.
Oh, 7.1.
10.
10, sorry, 7.10.
10.
All right.
0.10, that's a long night.
So the only thing I'd have in here is just to represent the dollar amount, the increase to each fund, if the 3% was granted. Obviously, the general fund is the majority of it, at about 115, animal services, GIS, and highway. So I wanted you to be able to see what that number is.
Okay,
That's all I have on that one.
questions? All right, moving on to 7.11 fiscal year 2025 new initiatives. Ms. Tobin.
Okay. So all of these except for one you would have seen before. The only new one is the FOIA software, which will be tremendously helpful for pretty much every department. It's under new initiatives because it is an ongoing cost. It will cost us about $10,000 a year.
So that's per year.
Per year. And it'll go up slightly.
Under new initiatives.
The rest of them are wage adjustments that have been requested by different departments. I think you have some of those departments here. And then at the bottom, it just shows the impact, if all of these requests are approved, the impact to the general fund and then the impact to the highway. Obviously, then attached are all the new initiative requests that you would have seen throughout the budget process with those different departments. If there's any questions there?
Carl has his hand up.
Mr. Johnson.
Becky, have you really gotten into our revenues? I mean, I see a little bit in here, but let's say we do some of these or all these new initiatives for 106,000, I think it was. I don't have it up again. But where's that money come from? I'm looking at your that you had here. It looked like the general fund budget was up about 680,000, 685,000, something like that. Where's this money come from for doing this? And then, obviously there's a ton of other new initiatives that capital expenditures really that departments are looking for. Have you found where we might gain money in order to do some of those things?
Yes, if we were to go on to revenues, which is the
Next one.
The next one, you'll see this is all general fund revenues. This is proposed. Obviously, this isn't in stone. It's kind of a working document, but the 21,193,000 that shows here, I have the expenses balanced to the 21,193,000. That includes all of the new initiative and the capital that you see on this list. Not all the just the capital for fiscal year 25. So
When you say all the capital,
The capital that was under, the, this one, with the 689,410,
mhm,
that is included in this budget.
but none of the other stuff.
You mean like the building stuff?
Well, I'll wait till that clears up and then I can see, but like, stuff, yeah, stuff for the jail, stuff for the roof. Well, I mean, the roof was
The roof is, yep, the roof is coming out of the property maintenance fund. Obviously, MFT.
right.
But yes, none of this is being budgeted for this year. Or this budget does not include any of this.
It does include the 689,410.
Correct.
Okay, is there a way we can have that redone for us so that it's a little clear as to what you've included in your budget? You know what I mean?
Well, this says the 2025, and then at the bottom, yeah, this just says future requests unfunded. But, yeah, I can, yeah. And you'll see if, under here's the other professional services and capital. Here's what have I got here going? Oh, I gotta come back and I have it in mind. These documents are constantly changing and I did not update, one of the forms to match, but it's all in here. And then you'll notice, other professional services, legal, I did increase. Last year it was 25,000. This is where we're at right now. So I did budget 75,000 for legal services.
Let's wait. I'm trying to find your form again. That's got all the new initiatives on. I can't remember which one it is.
I couldn't find it.
I had it before and now I can't seem to find it, so. Can you tell me what section it's under here?
Are you on revenues or expenses?
For your expenses that you were showing all your new initiatives, that it's got the 689 and the roof and all that stuff.
That was
What section in board docs?
That was under 7.9. The very last line, 25 capital.
Okay. So the only thing that's not included in your budget is the future requests.
Correct.
Obviously, the highway is coming out of that, and there's a portion of funds coming out of the general fund for the highway building, correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, a couple 100,000 or 250 or
50.
6.8 million, right? Is what you were looking for, Justin?
Oh, sure.
Going to have a really nice building.
You'll see under administration, the U of I geological mapping project. I budgeted 150. I asked them to send us a bill for this fiscal year, so I should be getting that bill here in the next few weeks, and that's going to be about 98,000. So I wanted to pay that in this fiscal year and then budget that for next fiscal so that we can break it out, hopefully into 4 fiscal years.
And you're figuring pretty much a flat line from the property tax revenues?
For the general fund, that would be up to you. We can go
Right.
higher.
That's, no, I don't want to raise property taxes anyway.
No, I did not include any type of increase for the general funds. I can go, if you wanted to go through revenues, I can go through revenues.
Yeah, I wish, yeah, if you could, I'd
Okay, let me,
appreciate that.
okay, if there's a. Let's see, a few changes here, yeah, as Carl mentioned, yeah, it would be leaving the property tax the same for the general fund at 7.4 million. Slight increase, our sales tax are doing really well. You'll notice that cannabis retailers occupation, how it's a 0 because by state law, I can't, that number is confidential and can't be placed publicly separately from other taxes. So it's actually included in the line above in the sales tax, the 1/4 cents. So it is budgeted in there, which is why you see part of that increase. Part of it's just our regular 1/4 cent sales tax, but part of it is from the tax as well. Our income tax, you'll see a sharp decline in our personal property replacement tax. So we've been told that that's going to drop again, which it did again this year. So which we did budget for. This year we budgeted the 900. The year before that, I think our revenue from it was around 1.3, 1.4 million.
What's the explanation for the drop in such an extreme drop in that, Becky?
In PPRT?
Yeah.
This is actually more normal. The 600 is where we should be. The anomaly has been the last
Couple of years.
with the corporate tax. So with some of the corporation taxes that were out there. So that was the anomaly. The 600 is more in line with, unfortunately, with where we should be, because that was a really nice revenue source for us the last couple of years and will help partially fund some of our construction projects. Let's see, our out-of-state use tax is staying. I have that staying about the same. Our video gaming, we actually have a couple new locations, which I think helps accommodate for that increase. Building permits, we try and be somewhat conservative with those. Some of our circuit court fees, we reduced them drastically last year, not knowing what the no cash bail was going to do. And some of our revenues are pretty steady or not as low as anticipated. So we haven't raised them back up to where they were, but we have raised them up some. So we have raised some of that up. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else was a big one out there. Interest continues to hold because, as Kurt has mentioned, he has a lot of those already locked in. So for next year, we're still going to see a good return on investment there.
Becky, quick question on that interest, because Kurt always says, looking at $1 million in interest. And I see this is only at 365,000. Is that the interest, how does that get broke down difference?
So that's across all funds.
All funds, okay. All right. Okay.
Oh, yeah, so this is just general, but yeah, all the other funds too.
Thank you.
See, our Plody royalties are coming in substantially higher, and with all the construction going on 20 and 39, we're told that that'll continue. And our salary reimbursements, our reimbursements from the city. So what you don't see here is there's going to be a line item that's going to show the transfer in from general fund reserves to your operating. And then from there, that amount, whether it's 5 million, 6 million, whatever, possibly 6, whatever that number is, then you'll see it transfer out into the capital improvement fund. But I want to see that shown in our operating budget. So I want to see it come out of reserves into our operating and then transfer out into capital. So that will be included. I just don't have it on here right now because then that'll really throw off your numbers. You'll see a really big number there that part of your operating.
Okay, so and maybe I'm flipping between forms here. Trying to make sure I'm looking at the right ones. But it looks to me like our current budget. I have a copy right here. I have a copy here. Is like 20,996,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Just under 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
The new budget, you're looking for 21,193. So just a couple of $100,000 more.
Correct.
But we've got almost $700,000 in new initiatives in there. So just looking through here, I mean, where's the money coming from? Where's it going? Because there's new initiatives and just skimming through again, and looking at your numbers and the spreadsheet, there's not any big changes. There's some revenues that we don't have as much of and things. So what are we missing? What are we getting rid of? You see what I'm trying to ask?
So in our current fiscal year, you budgeted almost 1.2 million in capital. So we're decreasing that. So that's your difference right there.
Yeah.
You have less expenditures coming out of the general fund.
Okay.
I was able to take the roof that normally would come out of the general fund and take it out of your property maintenance fund. There's money sitting in the personal property, in the public safety sales tax that will get moved to the property maintenance fund to help pay for the roof. And then the other item that's going to come out of there, but I don't know if it'll happen this year or next year, is the repairs to the brick on the courthouse. That was going to come out of there as well. But yeah, being able to divert that large expense from the general fund right now was a big deal.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and just one last one. We're going to go over this again a couple of times, I'm assuming, before we vote on it in November.
Yep, we are. So normally, because of the way the 15-day layover falls, we would have tried to bring you at least a draft budget to put on layover next week. I'm not going to do that. One, I'm not done. And two, so you guys have more of a chance to review it. We're probably going to end up with a special that last week in October, because we need to, you guys need to approve the construction documents that need to be let on November 4th. We have the budget, and then possibly, depending what happens with the negotiations with Ringland, we might have something to bring to you at that point. So my intent is by hopefully by that last week in October, when we have that meeting, then you'll be able to do a layover, and you can still make changes after that. That's just the layover.
Yep.
I should, by next Thursday, I can have everything put together for you. Whether it's to look at it on the county board agenda, whether you want to meet before the meeting, whether you want a special meeting just to go over the budget, it's up to you guys.
Ms. Branson?
Becky, I'm not clear on, there's a lot of pages and stuff in here that's overflowing and interacting in here. And I'm kind of lost when it comes to all of the sheriff's request. And he had several $100,000 worth of stuff that he was wanting to get taken care of. Where are we on that? Is that included, not included?
Some of it's included, some of it is not. Some of it is under the future request.
Okay, I did see that.
Yep, it's under there. Because originally, I think 2 years ago, the windows were approved, but at that time, the quote was much lower than they were in actuality. I think at that time, it was like 200,000 that was approved for that. And once the quote started coming in, it's $500,000 now to replace those windows. So we had talked about maybe trying to budget them over time, just like a lot of people do with their houses, where you replace them as you go. So that's definitely something. Just with all the other construction stuff right now, we felt that this was a good base for this year until we really get a handle on everything that we're going to spend.
Okay. So he's not going to get the windows. I know there was a big cooler or freezer or something, and that's not happening.
Let's see.
I just remember he had a very expensive
Correction
wish
says
list.
He's a walk-in.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Here's. Correction says walk-in. Says this, correction says that, sheriff has stuff.
Okay.
There's firearms. The corner has the big need person.
Okay. Thank you. I got it. A lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Easy.
And new software. So
It's a lot of parts.
It is a lot of parts. Doing it by myself. I don't know if you wanted to go on to the levy at all.
Mr. Wiltie has a statement.
It just, it kind of flowed past, but I personally prefer a separate meeting for the budget so we can focus on it. We can focus on it earlier when we're fresh.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, moving on to 7.12, general fund revenues and tax levy.
The draft of the levy. The highlighted yellow are the ones that have changes or increases. The intent was to increase the highway by about 60,000, county bridge by about 40, matching only by about 2,000. FICA, IMRF, and tort. Tort's a big one, as you guys know and are probably experiencing in your own personal life. I know I am. The increase in insurance right now is crazy. We're being told, I don't have the numbers yet, we're being told a 12 to 15% increase. I'm increasing by 17 just because this fund always is just barely paying its bills, and there really isn't anything extra. So that's where you see that. Senior transportation, I'm asking to increase another 25. The city rejected paying, we had asked them to pay more, and they rejected paying any increase. And currently they're not even paying what they have been paying, the $41,000. So this 25,000 would at least help if they pay their 41,000 that they had been paying, would at least keep us from going any further in the red and might help us slowly start to get out of the deficit that we're in. And then last but not least, the VAC is requesting the increase to the 0.02. And Elizabeth is here tonight and is welcome to answer any questions or let you know why they're asking for their increase. Under state statute, they can have they can go up to the 0.02. Which would be about, that comes out to 55,000.
Mr. Johnson?
Vicky, why is it the cities decided they don't want to pay their portion of the transportation?
They paid a portion of it.
But not all of it, so why, what's the?
They, 3 years ago, their levy was wrong. It had to do with the special service areas in Farmington. Nobody at the city caught it. Actually, the county caught it, but it was after you can only go back to, 2 years. You can only extend that tax 2 years out, and those 2 years had lapsed, so they were not able to, or the county was not able to capture that revenue for them. So it just goes away, and the difference was about $30,000. So they decided they were not going to pay this entire bill.
So they decided to stick it to the county, and we can eat it. Oh.
And then 3 years ago, Kurt billed them late, and since it was no longer in that fiscal year, they refused to pay that 41. So there's $71,000 in the last 3 years that they
Really?
not paid.
Seems to me their animal services are going to get cut real bad. At minimum. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I think that's just bad faith on their part. I mean, I don't know why their levy wasn't correct. I certainly think that they probably have to take some responsibility into why their levy wasn't correct. And they didn't reflect what they were supposed to. So, at least as I understand it, a lot of those levies, you have to submit to the clerk what your levy is going to be. So, I mean, I don't know how that all works, but they certainly have some approval over it and they can check it and go through it. I just think that's ridiculous.
City had a deficit budget. At least others.
We had, years ago, probably even some of your old timers were on there.
Wow.
Didn't we have a board that was like a relationship, and Mary, you brought that up with the
Called the city county,
Yeah.
called the city county committee.
And
And old timers served on it.
yeah. Why did that dissolve and did it help? Do you guys think when we had that committee?
It went away when they restructured.
Wanted to get rid of Gina Del Rose. And that was her way, his way of doing. It's also why we have our own planning committee now instead of operating with the city.
It went away when we changed forms of government.
Correct.
No, it didn't. It went away before
It
this.
totally went away when we went to the current form of government that we have of committees of the whole. That's when all the different committees went away. We had 7 different committees. Up until that point, city-county coordinating was still an active committee, at least active on the county's standpoint, because only about half of the city aldermen would show up to that committee. So they kind of said, we don't really want to deal with it anymore, and they kind of walked away from it. So it had nothing to do with somebody wanting to get rid of a planning department. Planning department was separated because the county at the time felt it was a better use to have somebody interested in our interests and what we were trying to do, rather than trying to split interest between 2 entities that had 2 different desires.
Mr. Wiltsey?
This, going back to the $71,000 over those 2 different years, or 3 different years, are there services we can suspend or say, we're just not going to do this with you anymore?
And I guess that's the hard part, is there was never a written contract between the city and county regarding that money. We approached that and actually had a draft that was worked on by our state's attorney and the city attorney. And then current administration said they did not want one.
Then why don't we just suspend the services?
Well, and that's where it gets hard, because it's the urban transportation piece, which is technically, it's the county buses. It's a county program. The city was just helping pay for the program. We can't stop doing pickups or drop-offs in the city. That's where it gets hard.
We got rid of the direct route.
We did get rid of the direct route, yes. And that will tremendously help this budget, which is why that increase is much less than it would be.
Just
Mr. Riley.
What Mr. Curry, the question, I don't even want to get into the history or anything else, but that's something that I've tried to, over the last few months, tried to get that city county somehow get that back together so that we can have some type of dialogue between the city and the county. So
Yeah,
I think that's important, obviously for a number of reasons, obviously.
Right. So there's emotions that are high. There's some angst, there's some anger, maybe talk it out, figure out a good solution and then threaten them. I'm just joking.
I would like to see that happen because we had a very good operating system when we had the city county together. And I think it could work good again because we have a lot of stuff out there that we could operate together on. Cut our expenses on both sides of the fence. Get together. And contrary to what a lot of people think, it worked good then, it will work good again. We just gotta get it back in faction.
Ms. Branson, you had something?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say that I know that there is some tension between the city and the county right now, but we want to be very careful not to fuel the flames of that fire. Everybody wins when we work together, but when we fight each other, nobody wins. And right now the city had a like $1 million deficit in their budget. So they're just looking for ways to make up for it.
All right. Anything else? All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Riley.
We have
It
any?
had to do with the ambulance.
Certainly didn't want to.
Right.
Anyway, all right. Did anybody else have anything else? Or anything under old business? I don't think we have anything. Intergovernment updates. I don't think we have anything. Correspondence, nothing. Advocacy groups. What's on there? Oh, the October UCCI information is there. I'm sorry.
Elizabeth? Did you guys want to talk to Elizabeth?
Come back. Oh, there you are. I'm sorry.
No.
What do we got?
Just for the levy, if anybody wanted to talk.
Oh,
about
yes, please. I'm sorry.
Hear me out of this? No? I'll just talk like I'm right.
Bullhorn.
Okay, I'll talk like I'm right.
Sure, go ahead.
So the main reason for the increase is because I have changed the design of our staff. I now have a secretary. I would like to have her full-time. Right now I have her part-time. And I do have an additional VSO. And I also have one that will possibly be a VSO, but is also doing our outreach, social media. He also did grants, which was blessing. So he's kind of getting split up on that. What we've been doing in the past, honestly, for staff is we kind of bank on getting them that VA claim rating. So it kind of offsets their salary. We can't do that. We always take care of our staff that way. We make sure if they have a claim, they do, work to get their VA rating. But the PACT Act has created so many veterans and widows. So what's one of the numbers that doesn't show up on the census are the widows coming in. There's a ton of widows coming into our office right now, requesting DIC. And honestly, I just can't keep up with the work. There's no way. It's not possible.
Mr. Kerr?
Yeah, and I know that her system, she's changed that system and made it a real VAC and operating like a real VAC. Just a normal claim process is a long process for each person's claim. So if there are clients coming in there, they now have a vehicle so that they give people rides to the clinics, which is huge. And she fought for that vehicle for a long time, if I remember correctly.
About 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. So, she runs a good, legitimate VAC. We don't have the problems and nothing against Winnebago County. There's been some fracture there. We don't have those issues here now. It's running. It's so hard to get a claim. It's a long process and you need good representation. They have it there. And to be honest with you, I wish there were more, just because it's such a timely process. I mean, I think mine was 8 years and it was in the hospital for 7 months just to get a rating. So that was before I didn't go to.
So it's changed a lot. The office structure has changed a lot. We're, obviously going to apply for the grant every year if we can do that as well. We did apply for the very first time this year with extra staff in the office. So hoping to keep it offset that way. And we've really done really well since we've been, a VAC, and we've always stayed on budget and even had a little cushion room there. So this is the first year, I believe that with the new staff, we're able to hire them. And the last staff that we had, the budget, I think we spent a lot more on one staff member. I'm not asking for any pay raises for myself. I actually get VA disability myself. I'm quite happy. Believe it or not, I do my job because I like my job. So I would do it for free if I could, honestly, but we're not going there. But, and then also our volunteers, our per diem says, that's another thing too. We give them very low per diem per trip. We're looking at $30, $40 right now. And I would like to increase that. They make a difference in all of our veterans' lives. They really do. So, if I gave them, a little bit more than the $30 or $40, it makes a big difference. Just like you all, per diem, it's just, a little bit to kind of thank them and, take care of their expenses because they do have expenses as they take veterans on trips.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
Questions, but we have one of the best VACs in the country. That's been documented by a lot of different organizations who are doing business with us. So I think Boone County Boone County itself owes our VAC a great gratitude and thanks for what they've done for us.
Had a lot of changes in the past year. We just went to our annual conference for the state, and they actually a lot of good praise. So I was pretty impressed and actually shocked that our little county got on the map and was noticed. So I was very proud for Boone County.
That's awesome.
Anybody else? All right, thank you very much. Yep. All right, I do not believe we have any other business, Becky, that you missed anything? No? We don't have an executive session tonight, so I guess we will be entertaining.
Or do we?
One more motion, Mr.
Did you want to, did
Oh,
you want to pick something for a budget meeting? Did you want to
okay.
pick it?
Wait a minute, hold on to that thought, Mr.
Would you like to take back your motion?
I would.
I know he can just hold.
I just put it on pause.
Just hold on to it. If we go the last week,
No second.
8th through the 31st, well, we don't want to do it on the 30th, 31st, obviously.
Well, and that's probably going to be when our board meeting will be. But if you're wanting a separate budget,
Just for the budget.
um,
Okay. Anybody's thoughts, the week between the 21st and the 25th?
21st and 25th this month.
With the exception of not the 24th. We have something.
Yeah, no 24th.
Hmm?
No 24th.
No, 24th, no.
Becky, you're wanting one before we put it on layover?
I thought it might be helpful for you to see everything together in one package, and unless you wanted to do something.
How about the 29th? Tuesday, the 29th?
I've got my daughter's.
It might end up being the same, that might end up being the same night as your special county board meeting. We could do both in the same night.
Special county board meeting for layover?
It would be the layover, the construction documents that we talked about. We're gonna have to have a special board meeting that week. Construction document approval.
The layover is only
Some money that's.
days, right?
Right.
So we could do the layover just on the regular board meeting on the 30th. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the 31st, next week.
No, because your next meeting isn't until the 7th.
Right.
So,
Of November.
yeah.
Special meeting, just talk about the budget.
Anybody have any problem with the 29th? Tuesday?
Or do you just want to start early? I mean, we could start early next Thursday. But that might not be,
Start early.
might be a little, that might be kind
Up
of.
this time of year.
Doing,
Could go the 23rd.
we'll start another meeting, the 29th.
Can't do it Tuesday night.
That's, I'm sure with that. It said about starting early.
Either Monday or Tuesday? Okay.
About Halloween, stupid.
Yeah, we Halloween, trick or treat.
And you can do what we did last year. I mean, we approved it It's just, it falls so early in October. I mean, you can approve it for layover next Thursday and then still have, other, meetings and make changes. It just, if you didn't want to do it that way, we could, hold off last meeting the week of October is all I was saying.
This is, I'll just have to try to work around this, but my sister's surgery has been moved up from October 29th today by Mayo Clinic 21st. And my daughter's surgery is the 31st of October. So I just don't know if I'm going to be coming back from Minnesota or whatever. So I'll just try to work around it. 23rd would be kind of good for me because I don't think Judy's going to get out of the hospital that fast.
Anybody else have any issues with the 23rd?
I just have a question. Is this something we could like zoom into if I had to? Or is that because I have really heavy duty work commitments for the next.
With the same rules with.
This, yeah, let's see. Done.
I can't, because I can't do the 23rd either.
Sorry, what's that?
I can't do the 23rd.
Can't do the 23rd?
You just missed.
I couldn't hear you with this audio system that we have. Can we zoom in? Can we zoom in, Becky?
Yes, I think it's just like any other committee meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Like you said. Still got to come up with a date.
29th works for me, 23rd works for me. Doesn't make any difference.
Who else can't make the 23rd other than Elisa? Ryan can't.
I'll make it work.
Make it work. Maybe the 23rd would be the best.
If I can,
No?
if I can
Yes, no?
zoom, if I can zoom the 29th, it'll be fine for me.
29th or the 23rd?
The 29th.
Oh. I'm open either one, so.
It doesn't
I can do
matter.
either one.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
29th might still need to be a special board meeting. Or the 30th, sometime that week. Because the construction documents have to get turned over to our owner's rep by the 24th.
I can do the 30th.
Yeah. Just not the 31st.
You're saying, Becky, is we need to have it done by the 29th?
No, what I'm saying is there's really going to be two meetings. There's going to be a budget meeting and then there's going to be a special board meeting. Special board meeting will be sometime the week of the 28th.
Can we do them both on the 30th or are we going to be here for like 6 hours?
You could do them. I mean, the other, like special county board shouldn't be, I mean, you're basically, you're approving, you're going to review and approve the construction documents that have to go out the following week. And then the budget layover here again, you can still make changes to it. And then what was the third thing? Oh, that gives us time to possibly come up with, negotiate with Ringland Johnson, and there might be something that night as well. That's it.
Well,
Sorry if I misheard you. I thought the documents had to be done by the 24th.
The documents have to be turned over to our owner's rep by the 24th, and then they need a few days to review and go through them.
So we meet after that, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
What about Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week for the budget meeting?
Jay?
What about Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week for the budget meeting, instead of waiting 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
I guess that would depend if Becky has things ready.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty tight, I think, isn't it?
It's a little tight.
Yeah.
That Monday would definitely make it really tight.
Yeah.
Tuesday, I mean, I have it all. It's all put together. I just, like tomorrow, Javon is going through all the budget stuff with us and helping me make it look prettier and all that stuff.
Tuesday's out for me.
A day's out for you?
22nd is
Yeah,
out.
we have a club dinner. Secret, can't tell you if not, okay?
Unless you want to join the club.
about the 21st? Or is that already, we already said we can't do?
If I'm back from Minnesota by that time,
Said that doesn't give them enough time.
Not enough time.
21st could be okay
the special meeting or?
Or 15th or 16th.
for the
Days, so they're
budget.
Oh,
Okay, so budget for,
if I'm back from Mayo Clinic by then.
do what?
So they couldn't do the 15th.
so maybe budget then on the 21st?
I can make that work.
Right.
Anybody have an issue with the 21st for the budget meeting?
Works for me.
I don't have any
Okay.
secret dinners.
6 o'clock?
The
21st,
budget
the
meeting
budget.
is the,
6:30.
and then the 29th, is that?
Hang on, well, let's get one done at a time.
6:30 would help out a lot.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just the budget.
No, I don't have no issue with 6:30. That's fine.
6:30 on the 21st.
Yeah.
Okay, so the budget meeting will be on the 21st, Monday, the 21st at 6:30. And then the, what are we calling the other meeting for your construction?
That'd be a special board meeting.
Okay, that's a special board meeting. Okay.
When's the special board meeting?
We do the 30th? Or is that too late?
Well, I think the owner's rep would prefer the 30th because that gives him more time to go through it.
6:30. Does that work for everybody?
Do that at 4:30.
Oh, there's a parade
Yeah, the parade's that night.
that night?
Yeah,
I
mean, fast.
Yeah.
It's the parade.
What time does it start? Yeah, I'm sure, well, yeah, because
Day before Halloween.
Yep.
No, the parade is the 23rd.
Halloween parade is?
Oh,
No, that's downtown trick or treat. I don't think the parade's at 30th.
31st.
Oh, it's.
Yeah, that,
Oh,
yeah.
got it. Got it. There's two things.
Yeah.
Got it.
What time will that start, do you know?
So the 30th is the parade?
It usually starts around 6:30, 7 o'clock.
That late?
Is it that late?
Dark.
Dark.
Yeah, it always is on Halloween.
Do a parade in the dark.
Yeah. That's when you see all the lights on the trailers and stuff.
That's a Halloween parade. What time then? What do you think? Earlier, later?
Earlier would be better.
Which date?
Me.
The meeting?
I think they're talking 30th.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Which day are we talking about now?
The 30th,
30th.
special county board meeting.
I think they're all.
This would be a short one.
We do 5:30?
Earlier would be better.
5:30.
Anybody have a problem with 5:30?
I can probably make it work.
I'm good with that.
Giggles over here. What, is that not gonna work?
No, it sounds fine.
Okay, so special county board meeting will be on the 30th at 5:30.
Both of these, just in case. 5:30.
And the 21st is at 6:30.
21st is at 6:30. Yes,
Yes, at
5:30?
yeah, on the
Yes.
30th.
First at 6:30, or do you want to be at 5:30? Later, if it's easier for him.
So you gonna be able to do that, Brent, at 5:30?
You get paid double for board or?
No.
meetings?
$400.
All right, are we okay with the 5:30 on the 30th? Once, going twice?
Vote for it.
Rain.
A man in a blue shirt.
I'll vote for you if they don't make it.
Okay, you got it, we're set. Get those published, whatever we need to do. Okay. I don't think we have any other business to go. One more thing, just real quick before you do that. I'm not gonna be physically present here at the next meeting on the 17th. Mr. Curry, the vice chairman, will be chairing that meeting for me. So with that being said, Mr. Wiltie, did you have a motion?
Do adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Turned by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Branson. All those in favor, aye? Any opposed, say. We're adjourned at 8:38 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Becky, why would we have a county bus on our path?
On our what?
Why would we have a county bus on?
Great job tonight.
I was going for Madison the other day around the bypass. And out there where Lumen's purchased, one of our buses coming